Oh my gosh. I didn't even know a love like this existed, to be honest. Like, I remember we were 6 months in and I looked at him and I was like, this is too good to be true. We're just in our honeymoon phase.
Welcome to Love Stories, a relationship podcast for successful women, where we talk about love, dating, relationships, and how great love stories are made. Whether you're searching for the one, you're madly in love, or simply curious about romantic relationships, this podcast is for you. I'm Charlene Byars. Each week, you'll hear from women, couples, and experts, and all the ins and outs on how to create your own love story. I am so passionate about this subject, and I'm so excited to share all the things that you can apply to create a beautiful love story of your own. Cheers to great love. Welcome back to the Love Stories podcast. I'm your host, Charlene Byars. Hello, happy new week. All right, if you're single and you want to get married, there are 3 things that could be standing in your way. 1, your mindset. What is your relationship like with yourself? Are you building your confidence and becoming the woman of your dreams? Have you taken the time to do the inner healing work? Are you actively retraining your brain to ignore all the lies you've heard about marriage? Are you praying every single day for your husband-to-be to show up in your life? Have you spent time getting crystal clear about the man that you're looking to attract and be with and the vision you have for your life? Number 2 is action. After you spend time working on your relationship with yourself and your relationship with God, that's when it's time to take action. So you got to ask yourself, are you getting involved with church, going to the gym, or going to network events in your community? Are you putting yourself out there with open energy? Are you going out of your way to smile at that cute single guy that you see across the room? Are you asking your friends for referrals? Are you on dating apps and setting up your profile that will attract high-value men? Number 3 is timing. Timing absolutely plays a part in your love story. Falling in love is not just a simple formula where we put 2 things together and boom, we're in love. A lot of women blame timing for them not finding the relationship that they desire, even though they haven't done numbers 1 and 2. So don't blame timing. Timing isn't why you haven't met him yet. It's important that you spend significant time doing mindset work and taking intentional action over and over again. You have total control over steps 1 and 2, and then have faith and trust God with the rest. Let's talk about the tip of the week, which is your words have power. So stop negative self-talk. Here are casual negative self-talks that women make. 1, I'm a hot mess. 2, I can't do anything right. 3, I'm so disorganized. 4, oh, it's not that big of a deal. Anyone can do it. 5, I'm such an idiot. 6, I look fat. 7, I'm so lazy. 8, I want to kill myself. 9, I hate looking at myself in the mirror. 10, I suck at dating. So you might be trying to appear humble or maybe even funny by making this type of comment. But in reality, self-deprecating humor is not cute. It actually makes it look like you don't value yourself and is a low-key indicator of low self-esteem. Oh, and making that laugh doesn't take away from the reality of what is true about the low self-esteem attached to it. You want to call a friend an idiot, and you want to call a friend fat the way that you're saying it to yourself. So don't say it to yourself either. Words have power. Use the power accordingly. And when you say nice things to yourself about yourself, you build confidence, and not self-doubt. I am so excited to welcome my next guest to the show today, Brooke Sanford. Brooke Sanford is a total health guru. Whether it's financial, physical, and mental, Brooke spent 9 years as a leader in the corporate healthcare industry. She retired in 2020 and started her entrepreneur journey to help others in all areas of health. That led her to opening her own insurance agency called Thrive on Purpose Financial. She helps clients plan for retirement, protect their families, and build generational wealth, whether teaching her agents about mindset and personal development. When she's not working, you can find her on the water in sunny South Florida. One of the biggest takeaways, and I got so many from this conversation that I had with Brooke, is that although Brooke experienced major trauma at a young age after losing her father when she was 12 years old, and then after a failed marriage, she knew in her gut that he just wasn't the one. She decided to do the inner healing, lean in, and got closer to God, and didn't give up on love, and how she eventually met the man of her dreams. Wow. With no further ado, Brooke Sanford. Well, hello, Brooke. Oh my goodness. We finally got on.
Yes,
We've been trying to make this happen for a moment. And, life gets in the way, right? Things happen, life happens. But I was like, we are making sure that this is going to happen. So I'm so excited we're finally here today. Thank you for being here.
of course. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited too. And I'm like, I know that there's going to be so many good golden nuggets and takeaways from this because we had so much pullback on getting on. So that means there's
Exactly.
amazing.
Yeah. Amazing, amazing. Oh my goodness. Okay, so first of all, I want to start out. I just want to say something for, those of you that don't know Brooke. First, I want to say congratulations. Yay, she just recently got married.
Did it, June 3rd.
Oh my, June 1st. Can you just tell us a little bit about that wedding? How was your wedding, girlfriend? How
Gosh, it
exciting.
was amazing. It went by way too fast because it
Yeah.
filled with so much love, but it was everything we wanted. We wanted it to be faith centered,
Oh, beautiful.
and we had praise and worship and prayer in our ceremony. You could just like feel the Holy Spirit. We wanted it to be everyone that was our friends and family that loved us. Everybody there, just such good energy. The food was
Oh,
amazing. We did like a backyard. So there's a venue by us in Jupiter, Florida.
okay.
It's like a farmhouse, and they turned the
Okay.
whole backyard into a venue. So it has like a bridal suite and a pool with waterfalls, putt putt, and it was just more like a loungy chill feel. And
Oh,
the
fun.
weather was perfect. I was a little worried about booking an outdoor only wedding on June
Yeah.
1st, which down here is the first day of hurricane season.
Oh my gosh, she's in Florida, you guys. She's in
Yes,
Florida, right?
yep. And
Okay.
so it was like a February night on June 1st. Everyone was like, God must really love you because this is unheard of. There was no humidity, no rain. It was perfect.
Wow. Congratulations, you guys. No,
Thank
seriously,
you.
because when I had my pre-interview with her, she was planning on, getting her almost getting married, right? Like you were like getting it all ready and going. And so then now I knew the next time I got to talk to her, she was going to be a married woman.
Yes.
So hold on a second. So I know that you are now, for those of the people that are listening today, I know that you are now in this amazing relationship with this amazing man, and you're a successful woman, and life is great, right? But it hasn't always been that way. I got it, right? So I know it hasn't always been that way. So I want to start from the beginning, Brooke. I want to start from the beginning. How did you grow up? Because I knew that you were married before. So this is actually your second marriage.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
So let's start from the beginning. Where did you grow up, and how did you grow up?
Yeah. So I grew up in South Florida in a town called Boynton Beach, which is like right by it's kind of between West Palm Beach and Miami on the East Coast.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
I have three other brothers and sisters. So two of my older brothers and sisters are from a different father. And then me and my sister are from my father. My parents divorced when I was two. Um,
You were 2 years old. Okay.
my father was an addict, but a functioning addict that was highly successful. And so, as a little girl, I had every other weekend with him. And then, when he was sober, he was the light of my life and amazing. Did all the fun things for us. We would go on all these trips and vacations, North Carolina, Disney World. He was so much fun. He was like a big kid. Everybody
Okay.
was just drawn towards him. But when he was not, things were bad and he would stand us up, and I had to get into therapy at a young age. Thank God that my mom did that for my sister and I, to kind of understand that he was not abandoning us, it was his addiction. And
It was his
so,
addiction.
yeah,
Wow. So this was a what age were you when you really realized, okay, you know what? Things are good, but they're not so good.
yeah, so my parents got divorced when I was like 2 or 3 years old, so a
2 years, yep.
toddler. Obviously, then I didn't know anything, and then I
Right.
was about
Right.
6 years old when, my stepmom, his wife, said, they were in a fight and she yelled something at me and my sister, just so you know, your father's an addict. So we came home and told my mom, what's an addict? Like, what is this? And she immediately got us into therapy to kind of explain that to us and understand. So I was pretty young. And
You were young.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And so,
Did you know, like looking back now, I know that, at 6 years old, it's really hard for us to understand any of that, right?
yeah,
But now looking back as you got older, were you able to see the difference with him? When he would go in and out, or did he
yes,
hide that from
yes.
you? Oh, you did. Okay.
Yeah, I could tell the difference when he would go in and out of his addiction. He would isolate, he wouldn't show up to things when he was using. He would wear like long sleeve shirts. He would lose a
Okay.
lot of weight. His moods were rational and like up and down when he was not doing good. So now that I'm older, I could totally like pinpoint it like that.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
but when
Yeah.
I was that young, I didn't really understand.
Yeah, of course. And so take me back in the sense that, so were you living half of the time with your mom and half of the time with your dad, or was it more with mom
More with
and then
mom. Yep,
okay.
more with mom. My mom's amazing. I'm so grateful for her. And so we were with mom all week, and then we were with my father every other weekend.
Okay. So you had your dad twice a month basically.
Correct. Yeah.
You had time with him. Okay. And then did your mom remarry?
My mom did remarry. Yep. Yep. To my,
How old were you at the time?
I was 7.
Okay.
Yep.
So your mom remarried, you were 7 years old, and how was that dynamic?
That dynamic was great. I was actually very close to my stepfather. He wasn't really the provider. My mom was more of like the alpha provider and everything, but he
Okay.
provided love and intimacy, and he was always there for us. And he was constant. Like, we could rely on him. He was always there for us no matter what. He, was that support that we were missing from my father. He was there
Okay.
and he stepped in, and they had a great, dynamic. Him and my dad co-parented great despite all
Really?
the addiction. Yeah, they got along, and my dad would come over to the house and we would sit down and all talk. So despite the addiction and everything, my mom never bashed my father, said anything bad
Okay.
about him. Never. And
Right.
she had 100 things to say, I'm sure. I've never heard one negative remark out of her mouth about my dad,
Mhm.
which I think is so important for people who are coming from a divorce who have children, because they take
Yes.
on that
Yes.
identity when you talk negatively about one of the parents.
Right.
And I always watched everybody get along. I never saw them fight or anything.
Well, that's a blessing in
Yeah,
itself. That's a blessing in itself, because that dynamic already is just crazy. It's a very hard dynamic, divorce, living in two different households,
yeah,
and then especially having father that's going in and out and being an addict, definitely. So to add that to the mix, that's
yeah.
not bad. That's not bad. Okay, so let's talk about that. So you grow up in this, type of environment, like you said, it was obviously confusing in a sense, because you're not sure. You had a good relationship with your dad, but then sometimes you didn't.
Mhm,
But then he was around, but then he wasn't around. How did that really play a part
mhm.
when you started, like, going into adolescence, or even younger than that, like liking boys?
Sure.
Did you feel like you were pretty early on boy crazy, or not so much?
So my father actually ended up losing his life to addiction when I was 12, which is such a crucial age for girls because that's sixth grade when you start middle school. And so, like, middle school is
Wow.
scary. You start getting into hormones and, all
Yes,
of those
yes.
changes. And then he passed away unexpectedly. He had an enlarged heart,
Oh,
but it was from, the drugs and everything. So
okay,
that was a crucial turning point in my life. I was getting like bullied at school. So at that point, like middle school, I was not boy crazy. I was more into
okay.
sports and my girlfriends. But I did notice that with my girlfriends and stuff, like I until I got into like liking boys, that I never wanted to like be alone. I always had like a friend with me. I
Oh, okay.
spending the night at a girlfriend's house on the weekends, or she was spending the night at my house. So I did recognize that dynamic, that I always had somebody with me. And I think that that was my little voice or heart trying to fill a void of not wanting to be alone or being scared of like losing a friend because I lost my father and didn't have him there.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
yes. When you being at a young age, wow, that's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot. Did you, at that time too, did your mom, help you, like, go talk to someone, or was it more like
Yeah.
help okay.
My mom's
So you
actually a codependency coach herself, and she wasn't,
Oh, wow.
but because of everything she's gone through, it was like her calling to like share, and she's turned it into like a business. So she's always been a huge advocate for therapy and getting help and working on your
Okay.
personal development. So we had somebody come to the house, and then we were in therapy. But we
Mhm.
had both. Like the state provides somebody to come to the house when
Okay.
the child loses
Okay.
a parent, and then she also paid out of pocket to somebody.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So at the time, I mean, again, you're young
Mhm.
and you go through this like major trauma, losing your father,
Huge. Yeah.
obviously major
Yeah.
trauma. And then you started noticing early on that you weren't necessarily so boy crazy, but you definitely had this dependency, like you didn't wanna be alone.
Yeah.
Okay, you didn't wanna be alone.
Yeah.
How did that then eventually, affect you? So when did you start, as at a young girl, whatever that is, when did you start saying, "You know what? Boys, well, let me look at these boys." What
Yeah, so, like, later in middle school, like 7th, 8th grade, and it wasn't like it was just like, "Oh, there's the cute boy," and then,
Okay, yeah.
you would talk on the phone at night, and they would call your house phone. Back then, we had phones with cords in them on the
I was just talking let's talk about that for a second. I was just in the car with my kids, and I have, the younger ones, and oh, I can't believe you just said that. That is so
Yeah,
funny.
yeah,
And we have, I had, 3 17-year-olds in the back seat. And I don't know how we got in the conversation. We started talking about like, oh, when you have to talk on the phone, we have to get the cord and they're like looking at me like, what are you talking about? I was like, no, actually back in the day to talk on the phone,
yeah,
there was this phone on the wall and if you were lucky, you had a long cord.
yep.
And then your parents on the other side could like pick it up.
Listen in on your conversations from the other room, yep, and then remember the cordless phones came out, and those were super popular. You could
Oh,
walk around, you didn't have to
you
stand
could
next to the
walk
wall.
around. You were like, I'm living the life now. Like
Yes,
I have a cordless phone.
yeah.
Okay, so what
Yeah,
happened? So you were
it
young.
would just be like, simple, harmless stuff like 7th and 8th grade where you would talk on the phone with the boy and this and that,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then maybe like hold hands through the hallway. And then I would say once I got into like high school, that's when it like
Okay.
started. And
Okay.
it wasn't necessarily, I would say, like boy crazy, but it was like always wondering if they were like paying attention to me or maybe seeking attention from the boys more than like maybe some of my other friends. And I truly believe that STEM, now that I'm older and I've done all of the personal development and seminars and all that stuff, I know that a lot of these actions stem from our childhood and our programming, especially from ages
Yes.
0 to 7. Our brains are sponges. And
Yes.
so I do look back in high school and I'm like, wow, I always had to have a boy that liked me. It wasn't like a
Mm,
serial, like this boyfriend on to the next boyfriend, but like I needed that attention,
the attention.
pass
Yeah.
notes or whatever it was.
Right. You had to always kind of be in that, yeah, in that
Light.
type of energy.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So now you look back and you're like, huh, that was interesting because, and I mean, that don't you feel that has to do with a lot of us girls? Like, there's something there. There's some. I don't know where that comes from, besides obviously from our past or, how we grew up, but there is that um, feeling of constant, like, definitely wanting that type of attention.
Correct.
Not all the girls go through that, but I talk to a lot of women
Yeah.
and they can relate to that a lot.
Yeah.
They can relate to that a lot. Like, you know what? Like, I didn't there's a few of us girls that go through high school and we actually don't do the boyfriend thing, which is kind of crazy, which is cool. you know? I mean, either way, but yeah, I can see how that can really play a part in so many of us.
Yeah.
How we just like we have that, like, we want the attention, and I think it does have to do with a part of it, like not getting a certain type of attention when we're younger.
Exactly.
And yeah,
I think it
I can
can
see that.
come from the father or from
Yeah.
the mother, wherever you're lacking the attention. But it's also like this programming through society, like Barbie and Ken. It was like Barbie always had Ken next to her. So, like, you just think, like, if Barbie was beautiful, blonde, tall, everyone wanted to be Barbie when we're little. And you just think, like, oh, she had Ken. So, like, you've made it. You need a guy next to you. Or, just like the programming through media and movies and like the Disney movies of like every Disney movie, Cinderella, Little Mermaid, there was always like Prince Charming. So I think it's
Yes.
programmed in our brains from little girls.
Yes, no, I just talked to someone the other day. I had an interview with her, and she was literally telling me that, like what you just said. She said, "I remember growing up thinking, like, you know what, like, life was like, fairy tale and fairy this and Prince Charming, and like that's really what was programmed to me."
Yes.
And I didn't even realize that obviously that's not the reality of life, but that was with my programming. Okay, so now you're in high school and you're realizing, okay, I'm getting attention and stuff like that. How old were you when you actually had your first serious boyfriend?
So my first serious boyfriend was probably my junior year of high school.
Okay.
Yep. And he broke my heart and he cheated on
Oh.
me with his
Oh.
And then I remember crying, and he was a little older. He had already graduated high school, and he showed up at my mom's house with all these roses and his red BMW with his cologne, smooth.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
Oh my gosh, such a con artist. Like, I like basically was like, it isn't what you thought it was, and basically just like spit me all these lines and woozed me right back in. So I went right back in, and then that didn't last very long. So that was my first
Okay.
boyfriend.
Okay, so your first boyfriend he did that, didn't last very long. Did you end up leaving him again? Did you just say,
Yeah,
"Okay, this
so
is
we
not."
actually stayed together for a little bit, and once I graduated high school, we moved in together. And it
Oh
did
my
not
goodness, yeah.
end very well because I think my brain could not let go of that hurt and that pain that he caused me when he originally cheated on me. And I think I hadn't done as much work as I had now. That fear of like abandonment from my father, that I thought he was going to do that to me, because it brought up those same emotions and feelings from when my father would like not show up or pass away to when he
Mhm.
cheated on me. Those same like feelings sparked up. So I always had it in the back of my head, and I always was so worried and walking on eggshells that I should have just left it there. But then I did end up breaking up with him.
Well, you did end up breaking up, in hindsight, right? Shoulda, coulda, would've, right? But all of those experience really shape us and really do, shape us and let us, hopefully grow and learn. Sometimes it takes a while, you guys, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, it does. Sometimes it can take a while. Sometimes we learn it pretty quickly, but everyone has a different journey. So at that time when you left the guy, were you still in the mindset of thinking like, I want to get married one day, I want to have children, or were you more career oriented? What was really how you were thinking back then? Because you haven't really had that boy crazy too much, but you wanted the attention. Then you had this relationship and it just obviously didn't work out. Where were you
Yeah,
at the
so
time?
right
Take me back.
there when I left him, I was in college and I was working and making money. I was
Okay.
bartending, and I was just all about my girlfriends and going out and partying. Like, that was my number one, like getting through college, making money in the restaurant
Yep.
industry, and then going out with my girlfriends. And if I met a guy, then I met a guy, but I wasn't like so focused on like marriage or being in a serious relationship.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you weren't thinking, "Oh, I wanna get married really soon," or anything like that. You're more like, "I wanna be free and
Yep.
fun and just do my thing." Okay, cool.
Exactly.
So then fast forward because I know that you got married. I know you were married before.
Yes.
So now you're in college and you're a woman that's young and you're free and you already had this bad relationship and
Yeah.
your childhood was like you said, you thank goodness for mama
Yes.
for having so much support, but you went through a lot. You went through a lot. So, how did you end up meeting your first husband, and what was going on in your life at the time?
Yeah. So I graduated college and I got a job offer down in my hometown. So I had moved about 45 minutes north, and I loved it up there. And once I graduated, I got a job offer back home. And it was like my first real job, right? Like corporate America. So
Yeah, yeah.
moved in with my sister and accepted that job. And I started, rekindling those childhood relationships from being gone for 7 years up north. Even though it was only
Okay.
45 minutes, I didn't hang out with all those people. So one of my childhood friends just called me up one day and said, "We're going to a barbecue cookout on the beach. It's my friend's birthday. Do you want to come?" And I was like, "Sure." So me and my girlfriend went. It was a Sunday, and it ended up being my ex-husband's birthday and his party. And yeah, and so there was a bunch of people, a bunch of friends. We were at the beach having fun, and his ex-girlfriend actually happened to be there. And as soon as I walked in, she could sense like his energy. I guess they weren't together at the time. She was just there as a friend, but she could sense his energy of like looking at me and like wondering who I was. And so she immediately got like territorial and wanted to like sit on his lap. Even though
Oh,
they weren't together. And so he followed me into the pool house. I was going in there to plug my phone in to like start conversation. And I got like so worried and scared that I like ran out. I'm like, oh my goodness, I can't believe I did that.
did you know him? But did you know him prior,
No,
back then? Okay,
no,
no, there was just a
yep.
okay.
We grew up.
And when you first saw him, though, was he a guy that you were attracted to? Were you
No,
like, "Oh,
he was
no, you were
so
okay,
not my. I mean, he was good looking, but he was so not my type. Like he was a ex motocross professional racer, and he had like tattoos
okay,
everywhere and long hair. He was like rugged and like that extreme sports look, and I was more
okay."
like the clean cut look is what I
Yeah,
went
yeah,
for before. And so he was
yeah,
totally like out of left field, like not really my type, but he was definitely handsome and good looking. And there was like something about him. So I
yeah.
wasn't like, oh my gosh, look at him. But I definitely was like, there's definitely something about his like energy.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So he ended up obviously asking you out or something because you guys ended
Yeah.
up starting. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So how was that relationship with him? Did it go pretty quickly? Would you fall madly in love or was it
No.
like just one thing led to another? What happened,
Yeah, it
girlfriend?
wasn't any of that actually. I became friends with his sister and we all
Okay.
started hanging out as a group. So it was very like friend oriented. And then him and I started hanging out one on one, but just as friends. And
Okay.
I remember him spending the night at my house because he lived so far a couple times and never touched, never anything. And it
Okay.
was just completely platonic. And then after we started like building that foundation of like friendship, then he was like, "Well, I really like you." And I was kind of in my career mode then, where I was
Okay. How old were you at the time? What was your age?
23. So I
Okay,
had
so you're
just
you're all focused with their
yes,
career.
I
Okay, gotcha.
just graduated college. I just got my first real job. So
Real job. Yeah, yeah.
I was like, I need to just put everything into my career and corporate. I'm not looking for a relationship. And I kept pushing him off. And I remember the first time he asked me out, I kind of gave him the 3 day rule, which I look back, I'm like, that was kind of mean, where I didn't respond to his text for like 3 days. And I wasn't doing it to be mean. I just wasn't really there. My heart wasn't there. I was just focused on like my career. So I finally agreed to go out with him. And then the rest is
Okay.
history. And we were together for 5 years, boyfriend and
Okay.
girlfriend, and he hadn't proposed yet. And so now
Okay.
I'm getting into like, mid 20s. All my friends around me were getting engaged, getting married, having babies. And I'm just thinking of this list that society gives you, like the checkoff list. You graduate college, you get a career, you climb the corporate ladder, you get married, you buy a house, you have a baby. And I'm like, okay, my next check box to check off is getting married. Like, are you going to shit or get off the pot? Excuse my French.
Yeah.
But I remember
No, it's true. You're like, what's up? What's
5
up, dude?
years.
Yeah.
And so I remember we went to therapy about it.
Okay.
And
Okay.
we would see a therapist once a week. And I had to give him the ultimatum. And now I look back and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I really, poor guy, I knew that he loved me and he wanted to put a ring on my finger. He just was not as driven as me, didn't make as much money. He wasn't like a planner or forward thinker. He was the type of person that was just like fly by the seat of his pants and just let's focus on today and tomorrow. And
so you guys really truly had a lot of things that didn't align.
correct, a lot. Now
Yeah.
looking back,
Okay. Now looking back.
yeah,
So cuz I love that you're saying that actually, Brooke, because I think what happens is that sometimes we just get caught up on the moment and the chemistry.
yeah,
And the chemistry can really mess us up because the chemistry, you can actually have chemistry with someone and not have compatibility.
yes,
And you can have chemistry with someone, you can like that person and everything like that. But then when really start talking about the future, really start talking about like what would life be like, you can realize, oh, wow, we are on totally
totally
different
different.
paths.
Yeah.
And totally different paths. And that's one of the things, that's why I loved, doing this podcast is because, we get to learn this. We get to learn certain things because there's certain things that, from our past, we just didn't know. You didn't know this at the time.
Heck no.
Of course you didn't. You were young. You weren't, a lot of us, a majority of us women, we're not even thinking. We're like, he's cute. Okay, whatever, and then we end up in these relationships.
Yep.
Sometimes the relationships work out. I get it. Sometimes they really do.
Yeah.
And sometimes they don't.
Mhm.
So you start now looking back, you're starting to realize that you and this guy, your first husband, really didn't have the same values
Yeah.
and goals.
And
Okay.
I'm glad that
Talk about that.
you brought up the word chemistry because when I do look back, now that I've experienced like real chemistry that lights your heart on fire, your soul on fire, I don't think we really had that much romantic chemistry. We had more
Oh, okay.
best friend bond. Like he was my best friend. Like we had all of the same friends. We went to the same high school, even though we had never met until later on in life, which is so bizarre that we grew up and went to the same high school and knew all the same people, but never met.
Never met, yeah.
It was more like a party relationship, a best friend. We would go out with all of our friends. We would go see DJs and concerts and on vacations. And it was more so that it wasn't so much chemistry, right?
So you were attracted to the guy.
I was attracted.
You were attracted to the guy, but you didn't have that like, oh, I'm so into him.
No, like
Okay.
that romance
Yeah.
sweep you off your feet, like that sexual chemistry, like all of that wasn't really there. And I didn't know that then. I didn't, you don't know what you don't know, right?
Right.
And so we go through the therapy, all this stuff, and then he saves up and proposed, and we get engaged, and we end up getting married a year later. And
let me ask you, let me bring you back for 1 second. Back then, when you were going through the therapy, and she was, and she was saying you gave him an ultimatum because you're like, this is not, either we got to move on or we're gonna get together, right? Were you already noticing some stuff in the therapy and maybe ignoring the red flags, or were you just not really aware?
A little bit of both. I think there was some flags that I ignored for sure, like the not being driven, not being a provider. I definitely saw those red flags and ignored them, but then there was other parts that I just wasn't aware until I grew and did the personal development. Yeah.
Okay. So then we get married.
We get married. And I remember, we had this huge wedding, all of our friends and family, and like I don't regret any of it because it brought me to who I am today. We had a beautiful wedding. We went to Bora Bora for our honeymoon, and I bought a house, and then we were married for about. I started having like feelings probably about 2 years in. Where I really started to have like the anxiety and I was like, what is wrong with me? Like, I don't know if we're like aligned. Is it me? Am I going through something? Is it
Mhm.
this?
Mhm.
Really was like having a struggle, a hard time because I was like, once I get married, like this is it. I am not
Right.
getting a divorce. I am not following, I'm breaking the generational curse of divorce. I made,
Yep.
you know, promise to the Lord and I'm going to stand behind it. And so I really internally struggled without
Okay.
telling anybody for years, for
You
probably
did.
2 years. And I
Oh.
would post on social media and show to everybody like everything was great and we were so happy. And now I look back and I'm like, it was almost my way of like tricking myself
Mm.
to not look within and really follow my gut and follow my heart. It was like my way of overcompensating to prove to myself and the world that this was the love of my life.
Right.
When
Right.
really internally I was suffocating.
You were suffocating, huh? Because you knew this. It was you. It was you knowing that he's not the right one for me.
Yeah. And I felt so guilty, so much shame. And it literally ate me up inside. Like I would have panic attacks because I didn't want to hurt him. I didn't want to upset our families. We had so many mutual friends that we
Yes.
were so close to. And I was like, there's no way. Um, and then we kept getting further and further apart,
Okay.
drinking and partying more to numb the pain,
Yep.
staying busy. Like we could never be alone. We always had to have friends around. We always had to be doing something, planning the next thing, the next vacation, the next concert, the next party. And now I look back and that is not a healthy relationship. Like you don't
Right.
a healthy
Right.
relationship is when you have quality time alone and you want to be with that person and they're your best friend. You
Yes.
don't always have to have another couple or other friends along with you. You don't always have to be planning the next thing to look forward to. You're excited about your current life, just being home and, being with that person. And
100%. No, let's talk about that for just 1 second. Like that truly is a part of a healthy relationship because
yeah,
it is a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And it's absolutely, you can go on adventures and you should go
yeah,
change it up and go on adventures and experience different things. But really a healthy relationship, you guys can actually just sit on the couch alone and do nothing
yeah,
and just feel content.
and be content in each other's presence. And sometimes you don't even have to say a word. You could just be there, just relaxing together and be content. And there's nothing
How did Yeah,
wrong.
no, say that. I'm sorry,
I
hon.
was going to say there's
Mm-mm.
nothing wrong with like planning the vacations and the concerts and the parties and
No.
that, but when you have to be doing something every single weekend and you're numbing out with like alcohol and partying and stuff,
Yep.
you're masking something internally.
You're masking something internally
Yeah.
because if you can't have that quiet time with your man
Yeah.
or your partner and have that peace,
Yep.
something's going on with you.
Yeah.
It's definitely something going on with you.
Yeah.
Okay, how did he feel though? Like, did you ever find out, like looking back
Mhm.
now, when you were going through this,
Mhm.
how did he feel about the marriage? Was he all in
He
or was he
was
struggling?
he was all in. I mean,
Okay.
he didn't think anything was wrong. I was the
Okay.
love of his life. He couldn't picture himself with anybody else. And that's the
Okay.
part that made it so hard because I am
Hmm.
a recovering people pleaser and I tend to put other
Yeah.
people before my own needs because I don't like confrontation. I don't want to ruffle anybody's feathers. I never want to hurt anybody's feelings. And so instead of me speaking up and speaking my own truth and how I truly felt, I was too worried about like hurting him and hurting his feelings.
You were more concerned about his feelings than yours.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And now looking back in return, obviously, we want to be with people that also want to be with us.
Yeah.
So, it's like a disservice to him, not your fault. Like I totally get it. I think the majority of us do this, what you're talking about.
Mhm.
And, we don't want to, you know, ruffle the feathers. We don't want to hurt the person's feelings because we feel like, well, like, how are they going to handle it?
Yeah.
What's going to happen?
Yeah.
But really, it's almost a disservice because if you are truly not in alignment with someone and you are not able to, no matter what you do to get there with them, And it really comes down to, it's not necessarily them, it's you with them. It's
Yeah,
just, it's like, I'm not in it, right? Like, it's like,
exactly. Yeah,
you could be a cool guy, like, you know what? I'm sorry, babe. You're a cool guy, whatever. There's, because we all have goods and bads, right? We all have goods
mhm.
and bads.
Yes,
But it was you.
yes,
And I'm sure, looking back, of course, he wanted you to be with him if you were completely crazy about him too.
yeah, and I have
Yeah.
not one thing bad to say about him. He is an
Yeah.
amazing person, and I will never forget my mom saying, like, I would go to my mom and she was like, if you are not 100% like into it and in love with him, there's
Yeah.
somebody out there that will think that he hung the stars and the moons, because on paper,
Yes.
he is everything that a girl would want. Like on paper, he was loyal. He comes from a great family. He's very family oriented. He's not selfish. He, owned
He's a good guy.
he was a great guy, great guy.
Mhm.
So much
Mhm.
fun. Everybody loved him, but he was just not for me. And that's where that internal struggle really, really took a toll on me, because I thought there was something wrong with me. I'm like, am I just never going to be satisfied? And is there something wrong with me because of my childhood and my past? Am I never going to be able to be in a successful relationship or marriage? And I was just tearing myself apart, because I'm like, why can't I be satisfied with him?
Oh, that's so good you just said that. Oh, yes. That's so good. I feel there's so many women that find themselves in these situations
Yeah,
and they tear themselves apart
yeah,
and they just really live like on autopilot. And I want them to hear this conversation, because I want you to know, like, I am 1000% a a supporter of marriage
mhm,
and working it through and keeping the marriage.
mhm.
But I also know something. Not all marriages are meant to be.
Yes.
And it's okay.
Yeah,
It's actually okay.
it is.
It's actually okay. And so this is a case of that. It wasn't about the marriage. It wasn't about, like, if he did this or she needed to do this and do all this kind of stuff, that things will shift. No, it was a case of, like, it truly wasn't her forever. It wasn't your forever. And again, listen to this. You can have a really great person in your life and you can love them to death and they can be your friends, but to have a thriving romantic relationship, you have to absolutely feel like wholeheartedly with all your being that you are, like, you want to be with this person, you choose to be with this person, even though the person's not perfect, you just want this person. It just feels alive with this person, even in the hard times, the bad times. That's real. That's how it really is.
Yeah.
So if you're in a relationship and it's just not what you were like thinking and you have tried, so tell me, how did you start shifting? Like, how did you go from, oh my goodness, I can't really, like, I don't even know what to do here, because it's not the guy's, a nice guy. It's not like I'm in a toxic relationship or anything like that. But how did you shift? Like, what did you start doing?
So I started, and this is such a good point I want people to hear, is
Okay.
I
Okay.
started to nitpick and try and change everything about him. So,
Mm.
like, I was projecting, like, everything about him. Like, I wasn't, if you're not fully in love with somebody for who they are, now all of us have flaws and all of us
Yes.
have things that people don't like. But if you're not
Yes.
fully in love with somebody and you feel like they're a project and you have to change all these things about them, then something's off. And so I started
That's good.
projecting, yeah,
That's good.
projecting onto him and trying to nitpick and change all these things. And he's running around trying to like live up and change and do these things that I wanted from him, but they weren't truly him. And so they might have lasted a week or a month, and then he went right back to his old ways. And then we
Yeah.
went into therapy, and we went from therapist to therapist to therapist, and that wasn't working. And then finally, like, after trying, then we tried to get pregnant. I thought a baby was going to fix it. And
Wow. Yeah.
went to a fertility doctor, and it like we I just kept trying to mask any way that I could, immerse myself in work. Let's have a baby. Let me try and change you. Let's go to therapy, to really avoid what I knew my intuition and my heart was telling me. So
Okay.
finally, once I got to a point where I was like, I had like a breakdown, and I was like, I can't do this anymore. And I told him, I want to separate and I want you to either move out or we could put the house up for rent. We're not going to sell it. We could keep it, but I think we need to go our separate ways. He was like, I'm not leaving.
No.
Not leaving. I said, okay, so you want to be separated and live in the same house? And he did not listen to me and did not want to let me go. And that's one thing I learned too. If somebody truly loves you and is in love with you, they listen to you and they will let you go because they love you. And they
Okay.
will listen to your request because they love you. It's not about them and what they want, it's about them truly wanting what's best for you.
Got
you
it.
know? And
Yes.
so
Yes.
finally, there was a lot of struggling and fighting and this and that. And then he moved out. And
Okay.
yeah, and then we got divorced.
And then you got divorced. Wow. How long were you guys married?
A little under 4 years, so not very
A
long.
little under.
Yeah.
Okay, but still, you had four. Well, it's more than that. You were with him about a year. How long were you with him prior?
So we were together 5, engaged for 1.
That's right. So you were with him for a while.
Yeah, and then married for about 4, so right around 10 years we were together.
So you got, yeah, and wow, and I just want to say this, regardless if um you want it, not want it, planned, not planned, surprise, not surprise, divorce is hard.
Oh, I wouldn't wish it
Oh,
upon anybody.
it's just so hard. I knew that you knew that that's something that you needed to do,
Mhm.
but I can only imagine how hard that
Oh,
was.
it was the hardest time of my life. It gets me emotional even like taking myself back there. Like I lost friends. They
Yes.
tried to turn my whole family against me. My brother didn't
Yes.
talk to me for 6 months.
Yes.
We were fighting over the nitpicking, like the fight, and I was the breadwinner. So like I owned the house, I bought the boat, I did, and he was just trying to take everything from me, which was so not like him. But divorce brings
Mhm.
sometimes the nasty part out in people and shows us
Oh, it
that
does.
you
Oh,
don't ever know.
let me just say this. I heard this before and I never forgot this. Um, Good people do bad things in divorces.
Yes.
Like you are like temporarily like crazy sometimes in a divorce. Like you can have a good person and they just do things that you're like, "Well, I didn't know that," because that it just brings up so much.
Yeah.
But you went through the divorce,
Yeah.
you went through hell and back,
Yo, my
right?
it
Like,
was almost
yeah,
3 years of him. I tried to do it without attorneys and take him to lunch, and because we were friends, we didn't hate each
yeah,
other. I
yeah,
even went
yeah,
to 3 extra therapy sessions to just be able to figure out how to communicate without hating each other.
yeah.
And he didn't want to let it go, and then it was just a roller coaster of emotions, and I had such bad anxiety, and it was just I couldn't focus on my businesses. It just changed me. Like I felt like I was not who I was before, but now that I'm out of it, oh my gosh, it molded me and changed me. And I am so much stronger and so much better than even going in through that whole pattern of divorce. It brought me
Yes,
closer to the
yes.
Lord. My relationship with God has been stronger than ever because I had to lean on Him during that dark time. I felt so alone that I had no one, I felt like I had no one else to like reach out to. So there was so much good that also came out of it.
Oh, yes, I believe that sometimes, yes, our worst experiences
Yeah.
end up having, the silver lining in the
What?
end, right? Like, and I'm telling you, if you're, divorces, I have not heard of a divorce that people are like, oh, it's easy. I still haven't heard that yet.
Oh,
I mean, seriously, everyone just goes through so much emotions and so much things. And like we said, sometimes they're necessary. They just are. They're
yeah.
necessary. Doesn't mean, it doesn't mean they're not hard, but they're necessary. How did you, mama, seriously, how did you go from that experience, honestly, from, just really struggling in that marriage and being confused because you're like, oh my goodness, I didn't want to get divorced. I love this guy. He's my best friend, but I'm not feeling it. It's not
Yeah.
my lover, my husband for the rest of my life. And then try to leave him. And then that was hell. And you're right. Like when you go through divorce, I mean, this is something that people don't expect. It's like, it's not just you're going through the divorce with the person, you go through the divorce with the friends and with the family
family.
and people you think that were going to be there for you end up leaving like little cockroaches. And you're like, what just happened?
Yeah.
And you think and you really actually, believe it or not, like I went through a really bad divorce. It was horrific. And you really find out, honestly, in the end, because I was like, there's no one around anymore.
Yeah.
You find out who are your friends.
Yes. Yes. 100%.
You really do. You find out, oh, wow, okay, so that wasn't real.
Yeah.
When we were friends, and okay, now I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it does affect everything.
It really does.
Okay, so you get a divorce. Now, how old are you at the time?
Okay, so when we separated, it went
Yeah.
on for 3 years. Because remember, we
Okay.
tried to do it without an attorney,
Yep.
and we had to
Yep.
hire attorneys. And by the way, if you ever go through a divorce, the attorneys get all the money. and but sometimes it's just necessary.
Mhm.
And so recall, okay, so I was probably 33, 34.
Okay. Okay, so you're 34. Okay, so you're 34 and you're like, okay, so I'm going to be out again. And after the dust settled and you're kind of like coming back up for air, you know what I mean? When you're coming back up from air, were you like, where were you in the sense of like, were you thinking, you know what? I still believe in love. I still want to be married one day. I still, want to have a family, the whole thing. Or did it just totally take you the opposite of that?
I believed in love. I
Okay.
believed in marriage. I just
Okay.
knew it had to be with the right person. And
Okay.
so I didn't lose that sense of marriage, their marriage is for me or love is for me.
Okay.
I did get out there and start dating a little bit. I dated like two people in a 1 year span, and
Okay.
that made me feel like maybe marriage is just not for me, because people that I was meeting, I was like, oh my gosh, this is the dating world out there is crazy. And I was like, maybe I'm never going to meet the one again. Maybe marriage is just not for me. I didn't lose hope in it as a whole, but then I started to
Okay.
think maybe it's not for me.
Okay. You said maybe it's not for me. You wanted it, but you're like,
One
now,
day.
oh, now I'm kind of out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you, after the divorce, were able to also continue on, um, going to therapy, doing personal
Yes.
development? Were you in
I'm
that?
going to talk.
Okay.
Yeah. So during the separation and the divorce and after, I immersed myself in
Okay.
growing myself. I did some personal development like retreats and seminars. I had a therapist. I made the gym and yoga and like my health number one. I surrounded myself with like different group of friends that poured into me. I joined a new church that I was part of like a Bible study. Like I
That's really good.
just immersed myself in personal development, a podcast every day, like journaling every day as my outlet. Like I made my mental health, spiritual health, physical health, and like therapy and personal development number one in my life.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So you actually took that time, which, I say all the time. I mean, when we are single, and especially, if we're single women and we've had, relationships that didn't work, and now we're in that what I call, that transition phase and just trying to really find out, us and find out our stuff and find out our past and heal and do all that. To me, that is the most important time,
Yeah. Yeah,
to do that and to actually take the time for yourself
exactly.
and do exactly what you did. I want you to talk a little bit about that, how
Yeah.
important that is if you're a single woman
Mhm.
and if like you said, you had a lot of stuff from the childhood and then you haven't had the best relationships, but then you meet a good guy, but just because he was a nice guy, it wasn't for you, and then
Yeah.
you go through this bad divorce.
Mhm.
You could have just like skipped all that and just got into another relationship, which a lot of us do,
Yep.
and it ends up not working out,
Yep.
but you decided to do differently, and I really want you to talk about that.
Yeah. And so I believe that if nothing changes, nothing changes. And
Okay.
I realized that our marriage not working wasn't all his fault. Like I took
Yeah.
radical responsibility for my part in it. It was a
Yep.
50-50 thing. And it wasn't all his fault. So I knew that if I didn't do the work, no one's going to come and rescue me and do it for me. And if I wanted a
Wow.
healthy relationship or a relationship to work out and to be married again one day and to not have to go through another divorce, I had to go through the pain of working on myself and feel the emotions. Now,
Yep.
I wasn't, for that year that I worked on myself, I wasn't completely like not dating. I did still like date here and there, but I
Yeah.
never got in a serious relationship to where that was my boyfriend or we were living together or we claimed each other or anything like that. I lived by myself. I kept my distance. And if I wanted to hang out on the weekends and like go to dinner or something with, in that year span, those two guys that I did, I would. But I kept
Okay.
my journey on growing myself number one the entire time. And I think that's so crucial and so important, because if you don't do that, you're just going to attract the same thing all over again.
Yes.
And,
Yes. Yes.
our life and everything that's happening around us is a full reflection of what's going on internally within us.
Yes.
And
Yes.
even if it's
Yes.
something silly, like getting in a car accident or something that's outside of your control, like energy and all of that is attracted from something. You have to take responsibility for everything going on in your life. So I remember just like having that aha moment and realizing that. And I was like, I never want to go through this pain ever, ever again. I never want to have to feel this way ever again. And I want to come up on top from this. Like I want to come out a better person from this pain that I've been through. I want to be able to share my story and help other women and be the catalyst or the vessel to show that life can be better on the other end.
Yes, that's beautiful. And so you actually, that's what I love. You actually started doing the work. I mean, that to me is just so important, because if you don't clear some things, we'll never completely clear everything. It will always, it just gets better. It just gets clear in the sense of like, oh, that's why I do this. Oh, that's why I show up this way. Oh, that's why I get so triggered because of that.
Yes.
Okay, I mean, I understand that. If we didn't do that, I love how you said that we will keep attracting the same type of energy
Yep.
moving forward.
Yes.
Okay, so now Missy, so now you're like, okay, I'm on a roll here. I'm going through, some personal development. I'm really getting closer to God. And now I know what I don't want, right? Like now you know what type of relationship you don't want. And you probably knew probably what you wanted to feel next time
Yes.
when the next time came.
Yes.
So how did you meet your husband? How did you meet your man? Because during this time you're still you're
Oh,
going, you're boss babe, you're working, you're still doing all your things because you were said you were the
yes.
breadwinner, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So you were like boom, 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 boom,
Yeah.
boom. How did you shift? How did you shift here?
Yeah. And so I was not looking at all when I met my husband.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
I was just in that space of I'll hang out, and maybe have like a guy friend, but I'm not looking for anything serious. And so
Okay.
I was just doing me, focusing on my work and my girlfriends and the personal development. And then all of a sudden he slid into my DMs on Instagram. And he actually had been shown my social media through a mutual friend. So we have a mutual
Okay.
friend named Mike, and my current husband actually went through a divorce, and him and
Okay.
Mike were working out, and he was like, I have done my healing. I've been seeing my therapist. I've had enough time to like mourn. I think I'm ready to get out there and start dating again, but I don't know where to start. He's like, I've never been on a dating app. He's not a big drinker. He's like, I'm not going to go out to the clubs and the bars. And
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I literally run my business all day. And he's like, I don't know how I'm going to meet somebody. So his friend
Yeah.
was like, well, let me show you some girls. I know you like blondes, and let me show you some girls on social media that
What a great friend. What a great friend.
thank God for Michael, because we would have maybe
We
never.
love Michael.
Yes. And so I guess he showed me and some other girls that were single that Mike was friends with, his wife. and I happen to be
Okay.
one of them. So when they stumbled
Okay.
across my page, my husband said, "Oh, she's hot. I want to meet her."
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He's like, yes,
Yep.
sign me up.
So they called my girlfriend Christina, and they were trying to set up like a brunch or like a beach day with like a group. So it wasn't so like
Okay.
awkward, like a blind date. Well, my
Yeah.
girlfriend Christina kept dropping that she was so busy in her career and her business, she never told me. And they kept calling her for a month. And they were like three-waying her, Mike and Ron and her, and saying, like, did you talk to Brooke? Did you talk to Brooke? And she was like,
She's not telling
she's
you? She's not
not,
telling you nothing?
no,
Ay, ay,
no.
ay.
And so she just like dropped the ball and was just like not wanting any part of it. So he was
Oh
like,
my
I took
gosh.
matter into my own hands. So after like a month of trying, he slid into my DMs and just said,
Yeah.
like I was at Hard Rock in Hollywood with my
Yeah.
girlfriend, and he just said like Hard Rock is always a good time. I posted a story, and I was like, who is this
Okay.
guy? And so I'm
Yeah.
looking at his
'Cause you know nothing. That's right. You don't know anything behind the scenes.
no.
You don't know anything. This is like the very first time this dude came out
Yes,
of nowhere for
yes,
you. Okay, okay,
yep.
okay.
So crazy thing is I'm looking at his page and I see pictures of like him and his ex-wife, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this creep is married and he's like messaging me because he hadn't like deleted all the old stuff. And I'm like,
Guys usually don't. They're
yeah.
so
So
yeah, they're
yeah,
bless their hearts. Yeah.
exactly. They don't know social media like we do. And so my
They
message back
leave it
to him
on.
was like, aren't you married? Like, why are you messaging me? And he was like,
Yeah.
actually, no, we're finalizing our
Mm.
divorce, going through our divorce. I'll explain it all to you on the phone. And I was like, oh, he's already like being confident, thinking he's going to get my phone number and get me. So I called my girlfriend Christina and I was like, hey, had this guy been reaching out? She's like, yes, girl, I've been meaning to tell you, but we haven't talked. We've both been so busy. And so they've been
Okay, okay.
blowing my phone up for a month about you, but we just haven't like, gotten on the phones for me to like tell.
Okay. Okay. You're like, okay, because something's up. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
something's up.
Yeah.
And the weirdest part about it all is him and I grew up in the same town too and know a lot of the same friends and had never met. And 2
Wow.
days before he did slide into my DMs, I was, at a restaurant with my sister, my nieces and nephews, and I was just like,
Okay.
"Gosh, I think I'm gonna be single forever, like, there's just not any good guys out here." The 2 guys I had dated, I had no, like, connection with. It was just, like, filling time, and
Yeah,
filling the
yeah.
space, and I was like, "I don't know if I'll ever get married again, like, I don't know if I'll find somebody for me," and she was like, "You know what you need?" And my sister didn't even really know him, but
Okay,
kind of
okay.
kinda knew, like, his ex-wife. His ex-wife had a spray tanning company, and we had gotten
Okay.
spray tan, like, years and years prior, and she said,
Okay.
"You need somebody like a Ron Sanford," and that was him. She didn't know him, it just came to my sister's mind, and I was like, "Who is Ron?"
What are you talking
Yeah,
about? For
we
real?
talked about this
This is oh my
crazy.
god, this is so
I
cool.
know. So it's like
Girlfriend.
God working through other people.
Yes, absolutely.
So 2 days later, and I was like, "Who the heck is that?" And that was it. So 2 days later, when he did slide into my DMs, is what they say, I was
Yeah,
I
yeah.
thought my sister was, like, setting me up. I thought that, like, she was setting me up, and then he told me he had been asking Christina about me for a month, and I was like, "This is all so crazy, like,
Wow.
is he lying? Like, what's going on?" I felt like
Like, what's going on?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So I felt like everyone was working behind the scenes, like, and not telling me. And I was like,
Yes.
okay. So he,
You know, I love his let me tell you something, like, I know that there's something like, men and women operate differently,
oh,
I'm telling you.
yes.
They just operate differently, and I tell women all the time, you don't have to worry because you're gonna know when a man's into you. He's gonna
Oh,
make it very clear. If the guy is wishy-washy and you have to literally wonder, "Is I don't know if he's really into
that's
me."
not
Okay,
the
then he's
one.
not into you.
Yep.
He's not the one, mama. He's not the one because look at the story. This
Yes.
is what they do.
Yeah.
They are like they're like, I haven't even met her. There's something about like they could just okay, I heard this too. A man can know within literally a few dates if he wants to be with a woman for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
And a woman will need to know within like, oh, it takes a while for us. It's like
Because
it's literally like what is it? It's like 3 months. I don't know. It's totally opposite.
yeah.
Like, and that's okay because this is the deal, you guys. Allow the man to pursue because you get to set the pace. The man will pursue you, you get to set the pace. That's how it works. Okay, so he's like on, mama. He's like
He's
on.
on it. He's calling people about me, trying
Oh yeah, he's in his
to
masculine. He's like, I don't know. Yeah.
yes.
Oh, I love
He's
it.
like, so
I love
I
it.
was like kind of standoffish, you know. I was like,
Yes, yes.
I don't know about this. We exchanged numbers, and the first time we
Yep.
talked on the phone, we talked on the phone for 2 hours. And we
Wow.
just had like so much to talk about. And so we had never met yet. And then I said, okay, maybe we can meet for coffee or something this weekend. And then I never met with him that weekend. And I'm sure his feelings were hurt because he was like looking forward to it. So then the next
Yeah.
week,
Yeah.
he asked me, he said, do you like the Miami Heat, which were close to Miami? And I'm a sports
Okay.
fanatic. I grew up playing sports. I'm like, did he know this? Did he go through all of my like pictures?
Yeah, he goes through your stuff. Yeah,
And
he did.
I
He
was like,
stalked
of
you.
course, I love the Miami Heat. I love all Dolphins teams, Miami Dolphins, the Heat, University of Miami. And I didn't know where he was going with this. And he was like, oh, do you want to go to a playoff game Tuesday night? And I was like, I don't know about that. And so I was like, I'm actually kind of talking to somebody right now. So there was,
No, you didn't. You did. That's good.
yeah,
That's a pro move, you guys. Ladies, listen, she did a pro move.
so there was a guy that I was like nothing serious or anything, but I like used like that we were hanging out a little bit at
Yes,
my
yes.
block,
You weren't so available. You weren't so available.
and I
Good for
wasn't like
you.
really doing it to like play games. I was like kind of
No.
scared, and wasn't ready, you know. So I was like, I'm
Yes,
not sure.
yes.
And so he said, ha ha ha, I already know who you hung out with or who you say you're talking to. He's not your type. Whenever that doesn't work out, call me. And that confidence that he had and that he already was doing
Yes,
research on me and found out I hung out with this guy, I was like,
yes.
that kind of turned me on and like sparked,
Of course it did.
yeah, sparked my interest even more. And I was like, he's asking
Yes.
about me, asking people about me. Already knows what I'm doing, and he already knows that that's not my type, which he was 100% right, was not. And so I was like, okay,
That's some confidence. And see, there's a difference between confidence and cocky.
yeah,
This man has some nice, solid
yes,
confidence.
yes, never
I love it.
cocky or rude or abrasive or
No.
pushy or anything like that. So I said, okay, I'll let you know. So I
Okay.
the week went through, and then I let him know the morning of the game. I said, "Let me know if another couple comes with us." Because I don't know, I
Yeah.
think I was just like damaged and like scared of being like hurt.
Yeah, you just weren't sure. And
Yeah,
you never really met this
yeah.
guy. Yeah, you know what I mean? Yeah, of
Yeah, I
course.
was, and I never done like the dating app thing before, like meeting strangers. Like my ex-boyfriends in the past, I always met through like mutual friends. So like just
Yeah,
meet a
okay.
complete stranger, I had never experienced that before. And so
Yep.
I said, I'll go if another couple goes with us. And so the guy Mike and his wife Faye, who grew up with me, he invited them when we all went to the Miami Heat game.
Wow.
And it was like we had known each other our entire life. Like we were like holding hands, walking through
Oh,
the hallway as if we
wow.
were like together. And we had the best night, so much
That's
fun.
fantastic.
And I just
That's
felt this
fantastic.
energy and this sense of masculinity from him that I had never experienced before in any other man,
Wow.
like a sense of
Wow.
comfort, safety. I just felt safe with him. And then just when you meet somebody for the first time and you feel like you've known them your whole life, it's kind of crazy.
It's kind of amazing,
It
isn't
is
it?
very amazing. It is. Of course.
It is a safety. And when you feel the reason why you felt that way is because you definitely absolutely your gut, your instinct felt safe with him. So when someone feels safe with someone, that's where you are like, "Oh, God, I feel like I know this person forever," because there's a safety in it.
Yes.
And usually if we don't have that feeling, that's when things can be a little off, you know?
Exactly.
When you're like, "Oh, something doesn't feel right." Okay, well then something doesn't feel right for a reason.
Yes.
So there was a really comforting safety feeling with this man from the very beginning.
Very beginning. I knew, like,
Oh,
yeah, the first day. And So what do? And my over analytical brain, my
Yeah, of course. Us
self-sabotage.
women, yes.
Yep, my self-sabotage self, my over analytical.
Ay, ay, ay. Yep.
I'm like, we had this amazing night and this and that. And then the next day, he's like texting and calling, and I completely ignore him. And he's like, oh my gosh, getting in his head thinking, what did I do? Did I say something? Did I
Right.
do something that
Yes.
she didn't like? And he's like, probably he was like panicking all day. And then like
I
that
bet.
evening, he texts me and he's like, I hope you're okay today. I haven't heard from you. And I just text him back, I'm so sorry. I've had such a busy day. I have a lot on my mind. I'll call you tomorrow. Cause I didn't want to like leave him like that, like
Yeah.
lingering, you
Yeah.
know? And so
Yes.
in
Yes.
my mind, in my brain, in my psyche, I'm thinking of all the reasons why it's not going to work out. And I'm trying to talk
Of
myself
course.
out of it. And I'm like, okay,
Yep.
you know, his divorce isn't finalized yet. They're fighting with attorneys over the house and this, that, and the next thing. You know, mine was on the tail end of being finalized after 3 years. And I was like, just
Yep.
okay, I don't want this drama and this and that. And what if he's not over his ex-wife? And I'm thinking of all these what ifs in my brain of why it would not work out. And nitpicking.
Because you were scared. Why do we do that as women?
I
Seriously.
don't know.
It has to come down to it again, it was like because you've had, things in the past that didn't work out and you've had those type of disappointment that we almost like have this fear of like,
Yeah.
God, if I really go in and I'm vulnerable again and I open my heart, I don't want to get crushed.
Yeah. It's like our way of protecting ourselves before it actually happens. And I feel like we
Right.
talk ourselves out of good situations all the time because we're just being into that protective mode, and we're just so scared of the what ifs, or we over project, like our anxiety gets the best of us and we're thinking all these scenarios of what could happen when 75-90% of those scenarios would never happen, you know?
Right, right,
Yeah.
right. And looking back now, what would you tell women? Because there's so many single women that listen to this, podcast.
Yeah.
What would you tell them? If they were in your shoes now, like if they're like, okay, I did meet this guy and he seems amazing and we had the best time, but I can see myself already like, I don't know.
I would say check why you are putting those walls up, dig
Okay.
deep, maybe get a therapist to talk through it with. Don't
Mm-hmm.
just sit by yourself in your head. Sometimes going to like your same old girlfriends are going to give you the same old answers. Talk to
Mm-hmm.
a professional, I would say for sure. And I would say give it a chance, because you don't want that one to get away if they're the one. And if it's
Yep.
God's will, it's going to happen. If it's not God's will, it's not going to work out anyway. So
Exactly.
why talk
Exactly.
yourself out of it when it could be the one? Just go with the flow and see where it takes you.
Yes. Yes, yes, because sometimes we can actually have the most perfect man right in front of us, and we don't even see it because we talk ourselves out of it.
Exactly. Because we're too
Yes,
scared.
we're too scared. So I'm hearing you say, you know what? Follow your gut
Yes.
and allow yourself that space and that time and just go for it. Go for it because you're gonna know. You're gonna know, right? You'll know. Because if you know that because once you finally went in, if he wasn't your guy, you're in a different position now that you would have been like, I'm out.
Yes. 100%.
So what happened? Because you decided to go in.
Yeah. So, you also want to listen to like your intuition and your gut
Yes.
instead of like
Yes.
worrying about what everybody else is going to think. That a lot of times us
Yes.
women do that too. Like, what are my family? Is my family going to like them? And my friends and this and that. It's your gut and your relationship with this person. So follow your heart and your gut. So I did that.
Okay.
And I was laying out at the pool with my sister, the one that brought up his name, and we were
Yes.
talking about it, and him and I were texting, and we had talked on the phone again for another like 2 hours. And she was like, why won't you go? He asked me to go out to dinner and go on another date. And this had been like a week or two after our first date. And she said, why won't
Okay.
you do that? Why won't you go on that date with him? Did you have a connection and chemistry? And I was like, I did actually. She was like, oh my gosh, just do it. What's the worst that could happen? So I text him back.
Love her, love her,
Yep,
love
love
her.
her, she's the best. So I text him back and I said, "Okay, we could go to dinner." It was a Thursday. I said, "Would you rather go tonight or tomorrow night?" And he texted me back and said, "Do you really want my true answer?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he said, "Both." And I was like, "Oh my goodness, there comes the confidence again." He was like, "I want
I
to go."
love him.
So I laughed. I said, "Okay, we'll go tonight." So we went to dinner. We went to Houston's and we had the best night. And again, talked all night long. And we have been inseparable ever since that night.
Oh, mama.
Yep, ever since
Wow.
that night.
You did it. You
Yeah,
figured it out.
yeah.
Oh, that is so
The rest
beautiful.
was history.
Oh, that is so beautiful. And you guys, I mean, since you've obviously, how long you guys been together? A couple years
Two
now?
and a half years. Yeah.
Yeah, 2.5 years, right?
Mhm.
And since, the 2.5 years ago, I mean, things have been just
Oh my gosh. I didn't even know a love like this existed, to be honest. Like, I remember we were 6 months in, and I looked at him and I was like, This is too good to be true. We're just in our honeymoon phase." And he was like,
right.
"No, we're not in our honeymoon phase." He goes, "You'll see. You'll see." A year later,
Oh,
like, "Look, we're still feeling this connection, this love. We're still doing the same thing now. Pay up because I bet you we're still not in our honeymoon phase." And now, two and
yes.
a half years later, I will say that, like, it's still like day one. Um,
Yes.
that
That's
feeling,
beautiful.
that spark, I feel like I can't love him anymore. And every day I wake up and I love him more than the day prior. And I'm like, how is this even possible? Like, we do everything together. I think that's so
Okay.
important in a relationship to have the same
Yes.
likes and interests. Um,
That's what I was gonna ask you. What do you feel now? I mean, is like the biggest difference, like how you're showing up in this marriage
oh,
and what yeah, right,
so
compared to
many
how you were
differences.
before
Yeah.
and how you know now, like, wow, again, we're not putting fault on the guy, your
No.
first marriage.
Yeah.
I get that. No, but I'm just saying, but look how day and night it is because I do really believe that marriages can have a happily ever after. I
Yeah.
do. I really believe that. I believe that. I truly believe that. That's why I do what I do. That we can absolutely meet the right person for us, and not everyone's going to be the right person. There's certain people that just are have more alignment with one another,
For
right?
sure.
But I do believe that marriage is still, regardless if you meet the right person,
Mhm.
you still have to learn and grow and hopefully mature together, and that person is the right person to help you do that, right?
Yeah.
Because we're all we all have stuff, right? We all have
Yep.
stuff,
All
and we'll always have stuff.
mhm.
And when you're with the right person, you have that opportunity to
Yeah.
work that stuff through. That person's not going to save you, you're not going to save that person,
Yeah.
but they're going to give you that space to really truly become your best self.
100%.
That's when right? So
Yeah.
what are the major differences? Because I want my ladies right now that are listening right now, because this is so exciting. So you heard a story, okay? Thank you for this story
Of
today.
course.
You heard how what she's gone through, and we're going to talk a little bit also about what she does for a living because she's a boss babe.
Mhm.
And I know her and her husband do stuff. But anyway, but we what she's gone through and her journey, she went through some really hard things as a child and how that really played a part in how she felt about boys and relationships and herself. And then she went and had a marriage and she went through that. And so you can only imagine, a lot of us out there, because I'm in my second marriage too, and a lot of us out there, we go through that stage that we're like, gosh, like you said at one time, I don't even know if it's in the cards for me. Thank goodness you kept leaning in, mama. You know what I mean? I want women to hear that. Thank goodness you did not just give up.
Yeah.
You did not say, forget it. Okay. But I want you to talk to them and let them know how there is hope, and what, what and how you were able to go through one phase to a completely different phase. I know I've asked you so many questions right now because I just want so much information from you. It's so good.
So basically, what's the difference, right?
Yeah.
And that's one of the questions that I heard you repeat. So the
Yes.
biggest
Yes.
difference with him and I's relationships prior to any others or my previous marriage, what have you, is he is so in his masculine that it has allowed me to step out of my masculine and get into my feminine.
Wow.
I remember when we first met and we like really hit it off and we were inseparable. And he was like, just watch, people are going to start noticing a difference about you. And I will say that every single friend and every single family member, they're like, Brooke, you are like your best version of yourself. We've never seen you like this before, because when I was like in my masculine trying to produce and overly work and worry about
Yep.
everything, I wasn't my best version of myself. I was highly stressed.
Yep.
I was masking the pain with partying and drinking more than I would have liked to. I was
Yep.
snappy and short. I wasn't showing up as a good friend, sister, daughter, aunt, because I was just so in my masculine raw. And so I
Mhm.
wasn't showing up in that feminine energy. And now all of my friends and my family members are like, gosh, like this is the real Brooke. Like I am just more patient. I do more things like around the house in regards to like baking and cooking and decorating. And
Oh, I love that. Oh, I love that.
and I'm just
Oh,
the best version of myself. We have grown closer to God, like together. He's helped me dream bigger and more because I know that he's like reliable. He's my rock. And so having that comfort of knowing that somebody is there for you no matter what and is going to support you allows you to feel so safe that you could dream bigger or you could think of new things, or you're not scared to try that new career or launch that new podcast or write that book or whatever is on your heart, because you feel safe in your home and in your relationship.
absolutely. You have like true support.
Yes.
You have true support, true friendship, true alignment, true, like, that romance. And that's what it is. When you have that polarity with one another, it catapults relationships. Like it just really does when you allow that, because the female and the male, they both get exactly what they're needing in
Yeah.
relationships. It is a yin and a
Yeah.
yang. It is a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And there's nothing wrong with, and each gender can have, masculine and feminine energy, but majority of the men, identify more with the masculine energy, right? And majority of the women identify more with the feminine energy. But when it comes to romantic relationships, and we're really talking about alignment, and we're really talking about polarity,
Mhm.
polarity, that's how it works. It is the opposite
Yeah.
energies. And before, what happened was, it seems like, and I'm just going to say this because you talked about the feminine and the masculine energies. So when you were prior, when you were married to your first husband, and you were the one that paid the bills,
Yeah.
did the thing stuff,
Mhm.
you were actually operating in your masculine energy.
Correct.
And so why you weren't attracted to him is because if a woman's highly in her masculine, let me tell you something right now, you're going to attract more feminine men.
Yeah.
Even though a man can look like a masculine man,
Yeah.
but his energy and his like, kind of like just going more with the flow, being more into the feelings, not really like leading, not really pursuing, not leading you leading them, you end up just having no attraction for someone, because if you can't respect a man, you won't be able to have attraction for him. You
Exactly.
won't have that. You won't have that. So that's the shift.
And
Wow.
that
Oh
you
my
just hit the
goodness.
nail on the head. That book, Men Need Respect, Women Need Love. I might have botched the title,
Okay.
but it's talking about how men need respect and women need love.
Hmm.
It's very hard to respect a man when you're more masculine than they are.
Yes.
And
Yes.
you know what I mean? And so, like,
Yes.
I feel like my husband now, I have such respect for him that I've never had for any other guy. Like, I would never like
Yes.
raise my voice or like talk to him.
Nope.
You know what I mean? Like, I would never dream of that. I always, put him first, even when he's not around and I might be with my girlfriends. Like, there's a level of
Yes.
respect that I have for him that I've never had before for any man in my life.
Oh,
And
it's fantastic.
another difference is just being content. We talked about this, like being home. Like, I don't need to go and be on vacations all the time. And I don't need to be like out with my girlfriends all the time and doing all these things. Like, I just want to be in my cozy home with him. Like, I
Yes.
do my work during the week, but like, I am so content with just like being with him in our cozy home. And I never had that before. If we could
Yes.
live
Isn't
to
that
talk. Yeah,
amazing? Oh, that is just the
it
best.
really is.
That's why we're doing this
Yeah.
podcast, to hear stories like this so other women can understand, you know what? Again, love is available for all of us. It's possible for all of us if that's something that we want, and the majority of us, seriously, we're not meant to be alone. We are meant to have great love,
100.
great relationships. But you got to put in the work. You got to put in the time. You got to meet the right person. You got to clear yourself. You got to do some work on yourself too, right?
Yes, and to know what you want, what you don't want. I'm a huge
Yes.
proponent for making a list of what you want in a man because that's what I did. And I remember my mom and my sister laughing at my list and saying, "You're never going to find a man that checks off all those boxes." And then when I met my husband now, he checked off every single box and some that I didn't even know that I needed. So, like, if you put it
That's
out in the
beautiful.
universe and to God, whether you believe in manifestation or praying or whatever, that's all energy that you're putting out there. And you have to trust and believe that you're going to be granted that man. So it's all also stems from how much do you trust and believe that you're deserving of what you want in a guy and
Yes.
not
Yes.
settling.
And not settling. No, and that's exactly what you did.
Yeah.
Ladies, did you hear that? No, seriously, I think that's amazing what she just said. Go inwards first. Do some work on yourself, and that's cool, but write down exactly what it is and how you want to feel with the man. What values are you looking for? What kind of life you want to live with him, how you envision your life, because that's what compatibility is. Compatibility is, you're not going to always have everything. He might like golf and you might not like golf, and that's actually okay. But we're talking the core values is what really helps you go forward in a relationship. When you guys have those values, when you know exactly, because this is the type of lifestyle I want someone that's also, ambitious with me, a family person, person that loves animals or not, whoever, whatever. Everyone has a different,
I mean,
a different thing.
I was so specific down to they need to be at least 6 foot or taller,
Yep.
hair, light eyes, tan, love the Lord, a
Yes.
hard worker.
Yes.
Like I had so many bullet points. It was crazy. And the more clarity you have of what you want and what you don't want, then when you meet a guy, you'll be able to
Yes.
tell if you want to waste your time with them or not. Or if you want to
That's
just keep them as
perfect.
a friend, or if you want to take things to the next level, or if you want to be their girlfriend or whatever, it gives you that clarity to know to say yes, no, let's stop this, let's just be friends, or they're not for me. And it will save you a lot of time and heartache and confusion when you get clear on what you want, what you don't want.
Oh, I love that. Oh, I was going to ask you, what do you want to leave us with? And that was so good,
That's it.
because that's it, mama, because what it will clear that for you. Because I mean, truly, like, if there was a guy, like, let's say for something, truly listen to this. If you're like, I don't want to be with a person that smokes. I'm just giving an example. Like, seriously, I don't want to be with a person who smokes. But then us ladies we find a person, and the guy we find, he's attractive, and we're like, oh, well, maybe it's not so bad. No, no. No, if he's already smoking in the beginning and you already said you don't want a guy who smokes, then let's not go ahead and waste the time with this guy. Let the guy do his own thing,
Yeah.
because there's plenty, listen to me, there are plenty of amazing men out there, ladies. The problem is you're not seeing them.
Yep.
I'm promising you this from the bottom of my heart. There are amazing men out there and you're just not seeing them yet. But when you get clear, exactly what Brooke just said, and you get clear on what you want, then you don't have to worry, because you know exactly what you're looking for, and you're going to be more open, and you're going to have, you can allow yourself to have a good time, put yourself
Mm-hmm.
out there,
Yep.
go meet different people. Dating's all about just meeting different
Yep.
people, just getting to know different
Yeah.
people. Wow, mama, how did the ladies get into your world? Oh my goodness.
Yes.
How do we, tell us what you do. I know that you are a really busy woman,
Yes.
and I know you do a little bit. So tell us what you do and how they can follow you.
Yeah, so you could follow me on Instagram, Brooke Olivia. I'm friends with you on Instagram. You can email me, brookeofink@gmail.com. Reach out to me. I'm happy to have a conversation if you're struggling in your own relationship world. I'm happy to share. I'm never too busy than to help another girl out. So, in regards to business, I'm like kind of do a lot of different things. So I run an
Yes.
Airbnb down here in Boynton Beach, but my number one business right now is I am a broker for life insurance, investments, all of that financial growth. I own an agency, Thrive on Purpose Financial. And so I help pour into other agents who are looking to grow their business. And I also service my other clients as well.
Fantastic. And are you and your husband, you guys are planning on doing anything together? Do you guys have
Yeah.
any plans for that?
Yeah, we
Okay.
do. So I come from my background is like the health world, the health and fitness world, and we're super big on health and fitness. We have a gym in our garage, so we do
Fantastic.
some like workouts and boot camps and stuff, but that's more of like a hobby. So like our dream for
Okay.
the future would be to like flip houses and own some more Airbnbs, so real estate. We're waiting for the market to kind of calm down a little bit.
I know,
Out here in South
right?
Florida, he's very handy. He's built a couple houses himself from the ground up, and so he's passionate about that. I'm good at managing it, and I have like the eye for design. So that's our goal and our dream for the future is to get into that.
Oh, that sounds
Yeah.
fantastic. That sounds fantastic. And I actually am going to leave you with the last word. Is there anything that we did not cover that you would like to share, with the listeners? Because we have both. We have women that are single and we have women that are married.
Mhm.
And I always say this too, even if you're married and you're like in a stage in your marriage that things are not so great, there's hope there for you too, right? There's hope there for you too.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say whether you're married and things aren't great, you're married, things are great, you're single or you're dating, the number one thing that all of us could do similarly is look within. And the answers, we sometimes, especially as women, we look for the answers everywhere else. We want to listen to this podcast and ask this girlfriend and read this book, but our answers are all within ourselves. So when you're confused or you're not sure what you want or whatever your case is, look within, do the personal development, the journaling, and just follow your heart, and it will never lead you astray.
Oh, wow. We are definitely leave it with that. That was amazing. Absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for all your wisdom today and your story. And it was just such a joy. And I cannot wait until this episode is out.
Thank
Thank you.
you. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you. And
having me.
oh, absolutely. And until next time, cheers to great love. That's a wrap. Wow. What an incredible journey Brooke went through. No matter what circumstances she experienced, she really trusted and believed in God that the right man is out there for her. She went all in and got crystal clear on what she wanted and what she didn't want in a man. And she wrote down exactly what she truly believed was possible. She didn't settle and eventually met and married her soulmate. What a great love story. If you're loving these podcasts and these incredible conversations, please hit the subscribe button and leave a 5-star review. Don't miss an episode because each week I'll be bringing on guests and experts who will share their knowledge about love, dating, and relationships so you can apply it into your own life. I'll see you next week. And until then, cheers to great love.